Many people trying to find the motive here behind downing this flight MH17 over the Ukraine. Now I'm going to share a lot of information here on what I believe to be the real reason, and I'm going to give all the information that I found thus far and some new information. Now I want to share with you here a crazy fact that I tweeted out last night in regards to this MH17. This flight first flew July 17th, 1997. This is exactly 17 years to the day before this accident took place. Now, undoubtedly, many people could see at this point that the United States and the powers to be here pointing the finger at Russia before they had a shred of evidence that this was Russia. Now, when they jump the gun like this, it always makes them guilty, makes them look guilty, and in the end, we always find out that they are proven guilty. Now, they're also stating that Russia had to have supported this, that they've took this Buk system and smuggled it back across the border into Russia to hide it, and that these separatists could have never done this alone. They had to have the help of Russia. This is all about blaming Russia, guys. Okay? Now, listen to this. This is some new information. The Americans picked up on satellite a fireball, which was the first indication of a surface-to-air missile armed with a high explosive warhead. Now, U.S. surveillance also detected a part of the missile's flight path as it streaked toward the plane, allowing the analysts to backtrack this from the point of impact to an area in which they're alleging is right near the Ukraine-Russian border, and most likely in the area of pro-Russian rebels. This is what they're stating. They are not giving us no images. They're not giving us no photographic proof, and they have all this. They're watching the area in real time off satellites. They have this. So the fact that they're refusing to give us this information incriminates them even more. So at this point, we can pretty much say we know who's behind this atrocity. The question is why? As you can see right here, many people may look at this headline and they may continue on to the next one. You do not understand the significance of establishing a no-fly zone in a region. This is something Barack Obama wished that he could have got in certain regions that he was wanting to go to war in, when he could not. Now, he got it without Congress's approval and everything that took place in Libya, but when it came to Syria, he couldn't get that. He couldn't get the no-fly zones that he wanted and the airstrikes that he wanted in the region. What does this mean? If they have a no-fly zone implemented over eastern Ukraine, this means they can shoot down any craft that's in the region. That also means that the region is a lot safer. A lot safer to send in ground troops. And that's exactly what they will be doing. I can't tell you exactly what troops they will be, but in the time that has passed since this whole Ukraine thing started to escalate and then died down and left the mainstream media, they've had plenty of time to get more and more troops in there. We already knew they have private armies in there, hundreds and hundreds of troops. They helped organize the whole thing to overthrow the previous government in the Ukraine and put in this puppet government that's in place now, that is continuing to shell the people in the eastern part of the country because they do not want to succumb to a Western-backed puppet government. They've been invaded. So they're fighting for their lives, and now they have to face potential ground troops here because any air support that they're going to get whatsoever is going to have to come from the Russians. At this point, these guys don't have a lot of weaponry. So what this is it's genocide all the way around. Now I want to share with you some more information that's coming to light that blows this whole thing up. They have apparently brought in, and let me backtrack just a second here and catch you up to speed. At this point, what we know is that the explosion, the only footage that we have, is when this craft allegedly just hit the ground and a huge fireball erupted. There's no footage of this thing coming down out of the sky. I've spent hours watching many different clips. They were all of different planes. Now, We also had seen the Ukraine government trying to put out a propaganda piece trying to frame Russia for shooting down this flight. Once they were busted and it was shown that they created it, it was quickly deleted. So for anyone out there that wants to say, well, they're iffy about the timestamp, well, the timestamp's not like Facebook's timestamp where you can go in and change the page. This is cached as a creation timestamp. It's different. We also have the proof here of the flight paths that we went back and we looked, taking the same path down the same corridors except for one flight, this MH17, which gets shot down. We also know that Kiev deployed 27 anti-aircraft launchers to the region right before this happened, and they lied to a New York Times reporter and stated they did not have this capability. When they were called out on it, they hung up the phone. Now we are hearing the rebel leaders that are dealing with this disaster on the ground stating that many of the bodies are not fresh. As crazy as that may sound, that they are decomposing, and many of the witnesses are stating the same thing, that right after the crash happened, when they rolled up on the scene, you could smell the decomposing bodies, and that just does not happen in a fresh wreck. Now, that's a lot of information showing that this whole thing is rotten, that it's a staged event through and through. The details will continue to come out, but once again, you have to look at the end game agenda. Why? Why are they doing this? This is all tactically to get positioned to face Russia. They want Ukraine through and through. They have to establish themselves. They have to be dug in the Ukraine, and able to do that, they have to wipe out eastern Ukraine all in all. Now, there's a big problem. There's pipelines that run through this region, and a majority of these people in eastern Ukraine are ethnic Russian. They have a Russian background. So it's going to be a fight to the death of all of them. Now, what I want to share with you here is more proof that this whole thing was a setup. We asked ourselves, well, who made the call to divert that flight over the Ukraine? That's a big red flag. Why did the Ukraine make all this fake propaganda stuff against Russia that they got busted with? That's a big red flag. Now, come to find out, shockingly enough, they flew in out of the country air traffic controllers. One specifically from Spain that was in the Kiev tower when this took place. And this is what he said. He was taken off duty as a civil air traffic controller along with every other foreigner immediately after this was shot down. Immediately. Do you see? They already had these men in place so they could take them and get them out of the country, back to their home country, and they could in turn fill the spot with whoever they wanted. Because these men are foreigners, they could do so, I guess, underneath their laws. Now, what comes of this is even more shocking. The guy that was from Spain releasing all this information through tweets was stating that this craft indeed was shot down, and that it was shot down by the Ukrainian side. This man's account has since been deleted, but all of his information is still out here. Like I've said before, you can put stuff out on the internet and think that you're erasing it, but it's still out there. We have copies of all of these text messages, and also what this man goes on to state is what we've heard in other reports as well, coming from other crew members that were working towers in the region, that there were 2 Ukrainian fighter jets that accompanied this flight through the Ukraine and literally left the side of this flight about 3 minutes before it was shot down. This is bombshell evidence. And the Ukraine military came in, took over the towers, and this is the big red flag to the guy. The guy is the one working in the tower. He said that they were contacted by the Ukraine government and military stating that it just got shot down. And they were asking, well, how did you know? How do you already know this? How do you know legitimately got shot down. Well, as I just showed you in these other links, U.S. officials stating they have satellite imagery of where it came from. You guys got to realize they're watching these battlefields in real time. They know what took place here. And they've tried everything that they can by deleting stuff, moving people, firing people, pointing the blame elsewhere, and coming up with fake stories, trying to blame and frame Russia, which they got nailed on. All of this is just too much to state that it's all a coincidence. They've been busted trying to frame Russia. Someone's changed the flight plan and diverted it right over a war zone. They've been busted lying about moving the anti-aircraft launchers into the region. And the bodies reek like they've been decomposing already. All of this showing proof that this has been a staged event. And then you have to put in the fact of these people being removed from their post, brought in, and 2 military jets accompanying this flight right before it was shot down. I'll leave links for all this and keep you guys posted with more info as I get it, as always. This has been Dabu7. Eyes open.